America and China have been in an ongoing tech war in recent years. This war has been fueled by national security concerns, economic rivalry, and a mix of political tension, which has resulted to multiple bans and restrictions on tech products from both countries, as well as supply chain breakups and the rise of national tech champions.
It is the embryonic version of online artificial intelligence, the early frontrunner that reportedly has just secured a $10 billion shot in the arm from Microsoft.
A few minutes on Tuesday, the chipmaker Nvidia was part of an elite club of US companies worth $1 trillion. The company's share price shot past $412 on Tuesday after rising more than 30% in a week.
Technology shares on Wall Street have fallen sharply in response to the emergence of a low-cost chatbot built by a Chinese artificial intelligence firm, which itself has said that within the last hour or so, it's been hit by a large-scale malicious cyber attack, has become the most downloaded free app in the United States since it was launched earlier this month.
One of the major aftermaths was the recent ban placed on TikTok by the US government. TikTok was officially removed from the US App Store, affecting over 170 million users, including small businesses, content creators, and even influencers. This ban was later lifted, and ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok, was given an extension period up until September 17, 2025 to sell TikTok's US operation to a US buyer or face a ban.
That's something Donald Trump is willing to do. If that deal gets approved then by the Chinese, then that deal will happen. If they don't approve it, then TikTok is going to go dark. And those decisions are coming very soon.
In this video, we'll be explaining how this all started. We'll be looking at the perspective of both the US government and the Chinese government, and we'll be analyzing the decision of having a US-only TikTok. So with that said, let's get into the video.
The US government has long feared that TikTok, owned by Chinese company ByteDance, could be used by the Chinese government to access US user data or influence Americans via the algorithm. There are two major angles to this fear: data privacy and algorithm influence. They fear that ByteDance could be forced by Chinese government under their laws to hand over US users' data, location, behavior, preferences, etc. They also fear that China could manipulate TikTok's algorithm to push propaganda, misinformation, or even just subtly shape public opinion in ways favorable to China or destabilizing to the US. All these were major concerns, and on August 6, 2020, President Trump in his first term signed an executive order citing national security concerns over TikTok's Chinese ownership, ByteDance. The order gave ByteDance 45 days to either sell TikTok's US operation to an American company or face a ban from US app stores and services. The order claimed that TikTok threatened the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. It referenced Chinese data collection laws and the concern that the Chinese Communist Party could access Americans' personal data.
Now, around this time, ByteDance was in talks with multiple US companies, and a deal was announced where Oracle, one of America's largest tech companies, would become TikTok's trusted technology provider, and Walmart will gain a stake in a new US-based entity called TikTok Global. President Trump approved this deal in principle, but ByteDance insisted it would still retain majority ownership. The structure was murky and didn't fully meet Trump's demand for a full American takeover, so the deal was never finalized. TikTok then sued the US government. They argued that the US government ban didn't give them a fair chance to defend themselves. They said the US government acted unlawfully by trying to ban them without a proper hearing or real proof, which is a violation of constitutional rights under the Fifth Amendment.
Several US federal judges blocked Trump's TikTok ban in late 2020, saying the government likely exceeded its authority. So TikTok was not banned, and the court battle stalled the executive order until June 2021. President Biden took over and officially revoked Trump's executive order that aimed to ban TikTok. But he didn't let TikTok off the hook. Instead, he asked for a more detailed evidence-based investigation into apps tied to foreign adversaries, including TikTok. This investigation was handled by the CFRUS, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States.
It's a powerful US government panel that reviews deals or operations involving foreign companies to see if they pose national security risk. I'll call them CFOs for short.
TikTok had already been on CFO's radar since 2019, but Biden's administration reinvigorated their focus. Instead of a straight-up ban, they explored whether ByteDance should divorce TikTok or if there was a secure way to operate in the US without foreign influence. And TikTok noticed this. The issue was becoming serious, and to prevent a ban, TikTok proposed Project Texas. It was made to address US national security concerns by restructuring how US user data is handled. It states that all US user data will be stored on Oracle servers within the US. Oracle will audit TikTok source code, algorithms, and infrastructure, a new US-based TikTok subsidiary governed independently with oversight by a US-approved board, and there will be no access to US data by Chinese engineers or ByteDance without US approval.
The goal was to show that China could not access the data or influence what users see. Project Texas was presented and defended in Congress on March 23, 2023 by TikTok CEO Shou Zhinshu. I really hope I pronounced that right. He claimed that TikTok wasn't an agent of the Chinese Communist Party and emphasized that Project Texas would protect US data. But US lawmakers and national security officials weren't fully convinced. They felt that TikTok was too tied to China, and Chu's assurance didn't change their mind, so the pressure kept on mounting on TikTok.
On March 13, 2024, Congress passed a bill with bipartisan support that gave ByteDance two choices: either sell TikTok to a US company or face a ban in the US. This bill was signed into law by President Biden, and the law gave ByteDance around 9 to 12 months to divest.
TikTok didn't fully comply, and that's why we saw what happened earlier this year. The US government has been clear from day one that they don't trust China, especially when it comes to tech and data. But what is China really saying?
China has generally positioned itself as wanting peaceful cooperation and mutual respect, especially in diplomacy and trade. They see the US as being hypocritical, paranoid, and hostile, and believes this whole issue is about keeping China down.
Their take is the US is afraid of competition and is using fear to maintain dominance. TikTok is just a scapegoat, part of a broader strategy to suppress China's peaceful rise. Mind you, TikTok isn't the only Chinese company being targeted by the US government. Companies like Huawei, ZTE, and SMIC have faced restrictions, sanctions, or outright ban over the last few years. So China feels suppressed, and they argue that US companies operate globally, including in China, and that these restrictions reflect double standards. The US government, on the other hand, feels threatened that a powerful tech company like TikTok is owned by a Chinese firm and operates within US borders. This feeling is partly concerned with China's 2017 national law, which states that any organization or individual shall support, assist, and cooperate with state intelligence work according to law and maintain all secrecy of knowledge of state intelligence work.
This means every Chinese individual or company, including those operating overseas, can be compelled by Chinese intelligence agencies to collect information, hand over data, and cooperate in secrecy, even if they don't want to. And although Chinese officials deny that this law implies global data grabs, US lawmakers and security agencies cite this law as a primary reason they believe TikTok is a national security risk, even if it hasn't been caught doing anything wrong yet. As of now, late July 2025, when this video is being made, TikTok has just a little over a month until September 17, 2025 to comply with the US law signed earlier this year that forces it to divest from Chinese ownership or face a nationwide ban. If TikTok doesn't want to leave the US market, there are only two realistic options left for them. They can either sell TikTok to a US approved buyer or sue the US government in courts, which is what they did last time. There have been reports that states ByteDance is having the idea of creating a US-only TikTok. Essentially, it's a separate localized version of TikTok for Americans with a US-based ownership and data. So it is a move by ByteDance saying we will create a US version of TikTok and sell it to a US approved buyer, and we keep the normal TikTok global for ourselves. Although these reports are still not confirmed, but if ByteDance is making a separate version of TikTok specifically for the US market, it will come with some concerns like how will this work? Will US-based creators be able to access other countries' content in the app? Will it be similar to what China has of TikTok, which is Douyin? I really hope I pronounced that right. And will it affect content creators' reach and discoverability in the US? Based on research, a US-only TikTok would likely only be available to users physically located in the US. Again, this is due to national security concerns.
The app will be geo-restricted, so US-based creators won't be able to see content from other countries, and the rest of the world won't be able to see content from US-based creators. For users outside the US, you won't be able to access the US version. You would still be using the normal TikTok owned and operated by ByteDance, which is exactly the way it works in China with Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, which is only accessible in China.
For content creators, small businesses, and influencers, your reach might be massively affected. You get cut off from the world, thereby losing international followers, global brand deals, and let's keep in mind that in most cases, the majority of a content creator's audience or fan base isn't from their home country, it's from other countries. Creators like MrBeast or Marques Brownlee, for example, have global audiences with a significant portion coming from outside the US.
So instead of your content being discoverable by billions of people worldwide, you are now confined to the 170 million users in the United States, and that's just something to think about. Are we going to be seeing a US only TikTok? Will ByteDance challenge the US government and go to court? Will TikTok be banned again? Or is ByteDance playing a move that we won't see coming? The clock is ticking for TikTok, and all we have to do is to wait and see. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know what you think about this whole situation in the comments, and as always, make sure you don't miss the next one.